What's up, world? I'm Cameron McKinney, and this is Pop Culture Spotlight, a podcast about the movie People We Meet on Vacation. Here's a quick synopsis. Poppy, a travel writer, used to vacation with her best friend Alex yearly, but now they are estranged until they are brought back together by his brother's wedding. The film stars Emily Bader, Tom Blyth, Sarah Catherine Hook, Miles Heiser, Jamila Jamil, Alan Ruck, and Molly Shannon. Standout performances. I'm far from the only one that feels this way, and it's the biggest reason I want to talk about this movie. Emily Bader is a revelation and has real star potential. She makes this character of Poppy, full of zany energy, feel like a real person, and most importantly, she sells every relationship dynamic the character has in this movie. And what I mean by that is sometimes she overcomes her scene partners, giving her absolutely nothing. And it's not in like a Ryan Gosling has chemistry with anyone kind of way. It's in this person is so good she can carry an entire movie. I could see someone watching this movie and thinking that the role of Poppy is a star-turning one. And yes, absolutely, the movie does not work if you don't invest in this character. Having said that, Bader is the absolute best case scenario because her acting kind of defies genre. She's funny when she needs to be and can be somber when the movie needs her to be, and possibly the highest compliment I can give her is the performance feels effortless. Bader's next movie has the possibility of a big one. It's The 99ers, a movie about the USA women's soccer team that won gold in 1999, and in it Bader will be playing Mia Hamm, and her co-stars will include Zoe Deutsch and Amelia Jones. It was an iconic sports moment that you just hope the movie can do justice towards. I don't know if the name Emily Bader will ever be able to sell a movie on her own that makes $100 million. But what I do know as of right now is I will watch any movie in which she is in. Bader's co-star in People We Meet on Vacation is Tom Blyth, who is best known for playing a young President Snow in the prequel, The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I like him in People We Meet on Vacation. He's not given the showy part, he's playing Alex, but during the moments he's supposed to let loose, he really sells it, and probably most importantly, he has chemistry with Bader, and that makes you want to spend time with them as a duo. We've all watched those romantic comedies when there's one great central performance, and then the guy that they're paired with is a complete and utter dud. That is not the case with this movie. Yes, I believe that Bader is giving the far superior performance, but Blyth is really solid as well. My issue with romantic comedies historically have always been the predictability of them. There are always, of course, zero surprises. We all know that the two main characters are going to come together in the end. And what I liked about this movie, People We Meet on Vacation, was the structure of the film. When it starts, the two characters of Poppy and Alex have already had a falling out. And during the course of the movie, each vacation they go on is its own mini story within the movie. I really like the structure of this film. I think most romantic comedies lack structure. They have the meet cute moment, then they have these weird moments in between where you're spending a lot of time with characters you don't really care about. And what's good about this movie is when you're not enjoying one scene or one vacation in the movie takes you to another setting with these characters. It's almost like a mini reset, while also connecting back to the original story. I also believe the conflict between the two characters makes sense and is realistic. Bader's Poppy is obsessed with traveling, and Blythe's Alex is someone who wants to put his roots down in one place to call home. And it may be simple, but the brilliant of it is this will divide audiences. Some will side with her and some will side with him. And the movie is not judgmental of either. A lot of these romantic comedies only care about the perspective of one of its main characters. This one gives both of its characters a solid point of view. Other things I enjoyed about this movie was the overall tone of the film. I liked the sincerity of this movie. It's not trying to be a satire on the romantic comedy or the crude romantic comedies you get nowadays. This is an old school classic romantic comedy. It's as simple as it can be. Here are these two people who are best friends who everyone thinks should be together, but there is a reason they are not. If I were being cynical, I would talk about how the movie uses tropes from classic romantic comedies, but why do that? I didn't watch this film thinking I was watching a great movie. I think people should be less judgmental towards romantic comedies. My criteria for these movies usually end up being, do I buy the chemistry between the two leads of the movie? And if the answer is yes, then I give the movie my stamp of approval. If I'm being completely honest here for a second, there are not that many romantic comedies that I put on my list of favorite movies ever. I mean, the one that comes to mind is Notting Hill, but that movie has Hugh Grant and Julia Roberts, two major stars. The genre has gotten a bit of a bad rap lately, and this movie is part of that because this movie was made by Netflix. And I think people look at the romantic comedy and go, wow, they don't even make these kinds of movies for movie theaters anymore. They are made for streaming movies, and most people look at them and go, wow, these are cheap movies that don't look good. Right? Like, one of the reasons I was interested in watching this movie in the first place was it was getting good reviews by movie critics that I respect, and they were praising the work of Emily Bader. Sometimes I think there's a disconnect when it comes to the consensus surrounding romantic comedies. Like, people think that these movies are easy to make. I think they're unwatchable at times because I think they are extremely hard movies to make, because they are movies that come down to one thing. Do the co-stars have chemistry with one another? I mean, I am somebody who will give most movies a chance. I will watch any movie all the way through. But if I'm watching a romantic comedy where I go, these two people do not have chemistry, it is going to be really hard for me to finish that movie. And it's something we all understand when we see it within the first 5 minutes. Do I want to spend time with these two people pretending to be a couple? There's no other selling point. There's no other action sequence. The comedy is never good enough to completely sell the movie. What sells the movie is, do I want to see these two people pretend to be in a romantic relationship? I do want to talk about where we are at with the genre. I think the people who star in romantic comedies nowadays are on the rise at the beginning of their careers. They're people who are like Emily Bader, who are just making a start in their movie careers, where at one point it was a place where you would stay for a while. Like, Mark Ruffalo made a number of romantic comedies. Julia Roberts made a number of romantic comedies. Matthew McConaughey made a number of romantic comedies. And of course, the aforementioned Hugh Grant made a number of romantic comedies. That is not happening anymore. The genre does not have one face to it. There's not one person who is crushing the genre every time they're in it. There's not one person who's viewed as the romantic comedy guy or girl. That just doesn't exist like it did in the 90s and the 2000s. It felt like back in the day, if somebody like Emily Bader gave a performance like the one she gives in this film, that then she would go on to be in 4 other romantic comedies. That is probably not going to happen for Emily Bader. She's probably going to make movies like the 99ers and continue to work within other genres. This is just a starting point to a movie career. She's not looking to become the queen of the romantic comedy, although clearly she's capable of doing that. It's just the reward for being that person isn't what it used to to be. I mean, you used to be the king or queen of the romantic comedy genre, and you would make millions of dollars and be in movies that virtually everyone saw, even if they were good or bad. It is interesting to look at the fact that comedy movies are basically dead, but romantic comedies still exist within streaming. Like, there are more romantic comedies in streaming than any other genre. I mean, you can find tons and tons of low-rent romantic comedies on a number of streaming services. I just don't buy the premise that there's a basic formula you can do to make a successful romantic comedy. It's why I find most of them to be pretty bad. Why I like and tolerate this movie is I think this movie is self-aware in the fact that this movie is readily admitting that it only cares about the lives of these two characters. Yes, the parents are there. Yes, the friends are in the picture. Yes, the characters are in other relationships at points in the movie. But no, the central focus is on these two characters, and the scenes between them are going to be enjoyable. And maybe some of you won't care, but I do care about the fact that these two characters, Poppy and Alex, feel like real-life human beings. For instance, the character of Poppy is very theatrical. I mean, she has elevated dialogue. She doesn't talk like most people talk, but she is put in realistic situations. The movie has the good chemistry between the stars. The movie has a solid enough premise. I'm not saying this movie is changing the genre. I'm not saying it's one of the best romantic comedies I've ever seen. It's just one of the rare romantic comedies nowadays that I really did enjoy, and I think it is worth talking about what works in this movie. And I can talk about structure all I want, but it really does come down to the likability of Emily Bader. That is what is so crucial to these movies. Do you care about the lead? I mean, it's why Reese Witherspoon was so good for so long. It's why Legally Blonde works. That is one of the thoughts I had while watching People We Meet on Vacation. This feels like a movie that in 2002 would have starred a young Reese Witherspoon. That is the type of thing I think Emily Bader is capable of becoming, a Reese Witherspoon type. But what does that look like in the year 2026? Can you get as big as Reese Witherspoon did in the 2000s in 2026, starring in these kinds of movies? Does this type of person become a movie star in 2026? That's why it's going to be exciting to see the career that Bader has. Is she somebody who can be chameleon-like from performance to performance? Or is she somebody that just relies on movie star charm? And don't get me wrong, there are not enough of those people that exist in 2026. Don't get me wrong, I like serious actors as much as the next guy. I like people that change their look, do a crazy accent, but I also miss the old school movie star, the Dakota Johnsons types, who just bring themselves to every movie they are in. I think Bader is capable of being that kind of movie star. This is a case where I don't think it's the part that's making her look good. I think it is about this particular actor that makes this movie so watchable and so entertaining. Like I was talking about earlier, I find the situation that they put the character of Poppy in to be very believable. I mean, this is somebody who wants to travel her entire life and doesn't want to settle down. But Bader still has to sell all of that. It is somewhat jarring that these two performances exist within the same movie, because Bader as Poppy is really funny. I mean, she does have some sad moments, but Blyth as Alex is really going for the stoic guy who needs to relax. And in my opinion, the differences between the two performances actually add adds to the movie itself. Some people could disagree. I think the two of them actually have chemistry. I think it was laughable how Bader had to sell her scenes with other co-stars in the movie. I mean, those were the moments where I was like, wow, this person has the potential to be a movie star. I actually believe what she is selling between her and this other person. Even when Bader is in those cliche romantic comedy movie moments, I think she's really good. Like in the beginning of the movie, they're traveling somewhere, like in When Harry Met Sally, and I thought she was really funny in those scenes. And then there's the scene where she's chasing after Alex at the end of the movie. Yes, you have the predictability of the moment, but her as a performer is unpredictable, and she's brought that to Poppy throughout the entire movie. That is something that not enough romantic comedies do. They don't establish that the character is interesting enough to overlook the fact that this movie feels like something that you've seen before. Too many of the romantic comedies all feel the same because the characters all feel the same. We already know coming into a romantic comedy that the end of the movie is always going to feel like the end of every romantic comedy ever, but that does not mean that every character needs to as well. That's why for me, great performances in romantic comedies really stand out. I mean, I think of recent ones like Zoe Deutsch and Set It Up. That is a performance that has really stayed with me, and it's one of the reasons I will rewatch that movie every once in a while just to remember that somebody is capable of giving that kind of performance in a romantic comedy. And that, like People We Meet on Vacation, is a Netflix movie, and I'm not sure what kind of relationship people have with that movie. I don't know if that movie has a legacy. I think people now know more about Glenn Powell's other romantic comedy with Sydney Sweeney than they know about Set It Up, which is a real shame. And that's why I think People We Meet on Vacation will end up being a great movie for Emily Bader's career, but I'm not sure it's going to be a movie that has a lasting legacy. Beyond that, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people are going to look back and watch this movie, especially if Bader becomes the movie star I think she's capable of becoming. I am somebody who on this podcast wants to talk about all different kinds of movies. I just don't want to be the guy who just talks about giant blockbusters or movies stuck in one particular genre. I want to talk about all different kinds of genre. I just find it with most romantic comedies, I have absolutely nothing to add to the conversation. That is why I was excited to talk about this particular movie, because I liked this particular movie and I think it is a good addition to the genre. And look, I'm not going to say it's great. I'm not going to say it's an all-time movie, but it works on a universal level. I think most people would enjoy the film People We Meet on Vacation, to an extent where I don't think you have to even like the romantic comedy genre in general to enjoy the movie. I think it's that good. 10 or 15 years ago, they might try to make another romantic comedy starring both Emily Bader and Tom Blyth. I don't think that's going to happen in the year 2026. Would I watch it if it did happen? Absolutely, because I do think that these two had real chemistry. I wasn't sure if this was a movie I should talk about on this podcast because it's been out for a few months. I don't know how many people actually watch this movie, and I'm not sure if it's still culturally relevant. I watched it, I gave it a chance, and I liked it. And for that reason, I had to do this podcast. I wanted to share my thoughts on the brilliant performance that Emily Bader gives in People We Meet on Vacation. Because in modern times, I just think we fixate on the wrong qualities of star quality. I think people think somebody is a star if they make a movie and it sells $100 million. I think the real star quality is this person is carrying this entire movie. Like, this film would not work if her performance was not as good as it is. My point is, being a movie star should always be about the movie itself and not how popular the movie is. And I really hope in the coming years that people build more and more movies around Emily Bader, because she has that it quality that you need in a movie star. Thanks for listening to this edition of Pop Culture Spotlight. I'm Cameron McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every Thursday on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I highly recommend you check out People We Meet on Vacation. Next week on the podcast, I'm talking about Hamlet, starring Riz Ahmed. So tune into that, and please rate, review, and subscribe.